on?
Yeah, it's on, but for the video you need that.
Oh, okay.
You're the one that wants to post the video.
So what phone are you using right now, Dave?
I'm using an HTC Panache, exclusive to Mobilicity. And by the way, when we go to our question and answer session tonight, best question, as judged by Howard, wins an HTC Panache. So, ask your questions. Got to be a good one.
So, and can you tell us if any new phones are coming?
The question was, can you tell us if any new phones are coming? I could, but I won't, because at our last meet, I talked about a couple of new phones that were coming, and a couple of the manufacturers got very, very upset at me for talking about phones that weren't being released. So I can't. But there are going to be a number of new phones coming before the end of the year. I think, one I can talk about, everybody knows there's some new BlackBerries coming, so we'll have some new BlackBerries in the lineup. We'll have a couple more Android devices in the lineup, a couple more feature phones in the lineup, and potentially a tablet with a radio we're working on. So we're working on that.
Any dual-core phones?
At this point, no.
All right. So you just launched in Calgary. How'd that go?
It went really well. I got a pair of ostrich boots. No, Calgary, no, I'm not kidding. I actually got these really cool ostrich cowboy boots with the quill marks in them. It's awesome. The launch went really well. We took all the learnings that we've done in our previous 4 markets, and we really applied them in Calgary. So from a coverage and network standpoint, Calgary was definitely our strongest launch. From a store perspective, from where the stores are, definitely the strongest launch. We got more stores in malls in Calgary. I mean, you go to any of the major malls, our stores are in there. And then last but not least, really on a service front, we were more ready for the Calgary launch than we were. So the call center was more ready, the handset manufacturer more ready. So we took all of those learnings and we applied it to Calgary. It was a great launch. So we were very, very happy with it.
So what should we expect for the rest of the year?
In what way?
Like, do you have any new markets you're planning on launching, or?
No. So this is the year of coverage densification. So what we're doing, we're taking all of the markets that we've launched, we're adding towers into the markets that we've launched, we're sectorizing the markets that we've launched, and we're just improving each of those markets as much as we can.
So if you could go back in time and change one thing about Mobilicity, what would that be?
If I could go back in time and change one thing about Mobilicity, what would it be? By the way, these questions are unscripted, so give me a minute to think. Howard's got a phone. Can I change anything?
Yeah.
Anything at all? I would have launched Vancouver first. No, and let me actually explain that comment. This was actually a discussion around our board of directors table, which was, which city should we launch first? This is like 3 years ago. What should we do first? And there was one school of thought that said Toronto is the biggest market. Launch Toronto. There's more people. There's more density, et cetera, et cetera. And then there was another school of thought, which was everybody's going to be gunning at Toronto first, so go Vancouver first and take advantage of being first mover in the market. We decided to go for Toronto because of the density. If I could go back in time, I would change that decision.
Okay, so how long does it typically take for you to carry a phone? Like when a manufacturer says, here's the new, here's a new phone, do you want to carry it? So from that point to when you actually launch it, how long does that take?
You're all over the map tonight, Howard. You're like, towers, what would I change, handsets, you're killing me. It depends on the phone. So if it's a brand new model that we're having made for us, that's our model. So for example, the LG Wink that's in our line, that phone is ours. It's chipped for us. It's different. It only exists for us. That's about a 9-month to a year process to get that done. The part that takes the most time is actually certification and speccing the handset, because you got to make sure the handset operates on the frequency right, it behaves properly in the RF environment, you got to test it, all those sorts of things. So if you're, for example, take the E73, it's really easy because they exist, they're already configured, S60 standard, you can bring the phone up, it takes a week to test it, you're done. But, with the Samsung C414, it had never been seen before, it had never existed in the market, it was a much longer process. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Okay, so if Steve Jobs walked in right now and he says, I got an AWS iPhone for you, how long would that take?
If Steve Jobs walked in right now, so first, the first question is, do we even want to carry the iPhone? That's the first question. I won't answer that one, but if it was made in our band and they could produce it and bring it to us, that would be a 3-month phone, right? Because make no mistake, us, Wind, Videotron, all of those other carriers, none of us are getting the iPhone until T-Mobile has the iPhone, right? It will not happen until T-Mobile has it. So, it would be pretty quick, right? Now, the question of would we carry the iPhone, that's a different question. Because the problem with the iPhone at a manufacturer's cost level, it's really expensive. It's an expensive piece of hardware. And as you all know, we have a no contract model. We only subsidize our phones very lightly. So, you can buy a full featured Android phone for $500. An iPhone's going to cost you more than that. How many are you going to sell? Right? So that would be the next question.
So, okay, now jumping to something else. Where do you see the Canadian wireless industry in a year from now? Like, do you see any consolidation?
What? So overall or specific to consolidation?
Well, just overall,
both. I think the industry is going to continue to get more competitive, but I think you'll start to see more differentiation and stratification between carriers and different positioning in the market. I'm happy to talk about that. As far as consolidation in the 12-month horizon, I don't see it. I think there's in the East, 12 months from now, if I was a betting man, I'd bet there's one less carrier in the East, but I don't think that's through a consolidation. I think it's through just probably just dying, and it won't be us. So I think that's in the West. The big question in the West is, what does Shaw do? Right, and when does Shaw go, and how do they build? And that's a mystery. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. They've stopped their build. Nobody knows strategically what they're thinking. I have my theories, but we'll see what happens.
So in a year, what do you see the mix between smartphones and feature phones? Like right now, smartphones get all the press, but still more people buy feature phones. Maybe not in this room, but like, what do you see the mix? How do you see the mix changing in the next year?
It's definitely going more and more towards smartphones. And as smartphones change and the pricing levels on smartphones change, it's going to keep dropping, right? Like, we're looking now, handset manufacturers are showing us Android. I saw an Android device the other day that was kind of a neat device, small screen, but we could actually put this device on our shelves for $100. Right, for an Android device. Now, it's a year out, right? But Android is dropping the price of smartphones, radically, and I think as the prices drop, smartphone penetration will go up. Now, the thing you got to remember, you're absolutely right, and people in this room won't believe us, but more people buy the basic candy bar, basic dial phone than buy a smartphone every day, and there's still going to be, no matter what happens, there's still going to be people that buy feature phones, lots of them, and that's never going to change. Because, my mom, God love her, and she'll see this video and she'll be mad at me for saying what I'm about to say, but my mom can't operate the remote control for her television. I'm not joking. She can't do it. She gets up and walks to the TV and changes the channel. She will never use a smartphone. She will never, ever use a smartphone. Right? I spent hours with her teaching her the little green key with the phone is how you make the phone go, right? But that's just the way it is.
No dial tone.
There's no dial tone. That's confusing for some people. That's confusing.
Okay, so beyond charge, you were talking about strategy. So beyond charging for voice and data, like what other services could you see Mobilicity selling one day? Like a lot of some carriers are going out buying media properties. Rogers was talking about home monitoring, that sort of thing. So beyond voice and data.
So that's where our philosophy, and I had this conversation with one of you with you earlier. That's one philosophical difference between us and most of the other carriers in the country is we actually see ourselves as a voice and data pipe, right? That's what we are. We're a pipe company. We have features that we sell and we bundle in features into our package, but really what it's about a commodity service. I get asked the question. I actually got an email from a customer the other day asking why they couldn't get a Mobilicity email address. Right? Why didn't we sell email addresses? And my response to that is because why would I compete with Gmail? Why would I compete with Hotmail or Yahoo? I mean, this stuff's free and it's awesome, right? Why would I compete with that? I got to ask, one of you asked me a question about Google Voice earlier. How do we feel about Google Voice? I think it's great, right? I think it's awesome. If you want to use Google Voice on our phones, go nuts. We actually allow anybody to use Skype on our network. We think it's great, right? Why would I compete with the global power of Skype, right? It's this desire to own the phone number by a carrier. We have no illusions. We're a pipe, right? So as far as owning media properties, when I look at how people use media and how that's going to change in the future, the day of the realistically, and you might argue with me, but the day of cable TV is very quickly coming to an end. Right? I mean, I don't actually subscribe to cable anymore, right? I mean, I don't know how many of you do, but like, I have like Netflix at home, and I buy stuff on the Apple Store for my Apple TV, like whatever, right? I don't watch cable like ever, right? I get my news on my phone, so I don't think owning media actually gives you control over what your users are doing, and I think we tried this once before. The whole walled garden thing, like as an industry, we tried this once before. It didn't work, right? Anybody remember, the Bell MSN gateway, right? Like it just didn't work, right? So I don't know that it's going to work again.
So do you see a day when data is included on every plan?
No. Well, let me explain that, because you're always going to have the user that doesn't want data. Right? You're always going to have, I hate to talk about her again and she's going to be upset, but you're always going to have my mom, right? My mom has no use for data, doesn't want it, can't spell internet, right? Has no desire to use it, right? She's got no desire. So why am I going to raise the price of her basic rate plan to include data in it when she's never going to use it? She's a voice subscriber.
So will we see a Mobilicity app?
What do you mean?
Well, the competitors have an app where you can check your account balance and.
Oh, you mean like a customer service self-care app?
Yes.
Yeah, we have that. Right? Yeah, if you go to our webpage on your phone, there's this little tab that says payment, and if you click on that, you can check your balance, you can pay your bill, you can do all that sort of stuff. Works on every phone, even feature phones.
All right, so now on to questions from the forum. So Alan VS asked, in January you stated that SMS codes were a priority, and priorities in quotes.
Yes.
But we haven't seen any added including Facebook's 42665. When will you implement SMS short codes?
Done. Next question. No, anybody a Mobilicity subscriber? Yeah, try the Twitter shortcode. Works, right? TransLink? So how this works, the shortcode universe, it's not nearly as easy as any of you would think. You'd think you'd just throw shortcodes into the ether and they would happen. It's not how it works. There's these companies called aggregators that aggregate shortcodes together and translate them out to the networks. So, we turned up last week. There's one aggregator in Toronto that gave us like about 40 short codes. So like Pound Taxi is working, like Molson's, H&M, all that sort of stuff. We're actually going to put a list up on the website of the ones that are working. Twitter and Facebook, you actually have to connect directly to Twitter and Facebook with VPN connections to get that done, and you have to navigate their internal systems to do that. TransLink, again, is a separate aggregator, as is TTC. So some things take longer than others to get done. And sometimes, I mean, we would love to implement them all tomorrow. Sometimes it's just not possible because you're dealing with third parties. But we got Twitter done yesterday. So if you'd like to try Twitter, go ahead. It works. It's great. I was tweeting earlier from it, so it works really well.
Since we're talking about codes, Ronin1701 mentioned TTC and Miga. Wait, sorry.
Mentioned TransLink?
Yeah, I mentioned TransLink and one other one.
Yeah, and again, we've actually got people dedicated to this, working on it, and it's, when you deal with TransLink, you're dealing with not dealing actually with TransLink, you're dealing with TransLink's aggregator. So you've got to get through two of them to actually get it done, right? So it's complicated.
Okay, so
we'll get there.
User Sable is wondering about dead zones in southwestern Mississauga. When is this going to be improved? That's a city outside of Toronto.
Does anybody in the room care about Southwest Mississauga? You want me to talk about Mississauga, right? You want me to talk? The issue in Mississauga is that our coverage zone, if you actually look at the maps on the web, it's one concession east of where the city of Mississauga ends. So there's a residential neighborhood that's overlapped, that's not covered in the coverage zone. That's what he's talking about. That should be fixed by the end of the summer.
Okay, so now user XTAC has 5 questions.
Great.
So you mentioned at the last meet, I think, that LTE is not happening soon for Mobilicity. So given that, will you participate in the 700 megahertz auction?
Hang on. It's good. Don't worry, I got it. It's awesome. Well, participation, we would love to look at the auction, but until the rules are set and the policies are set, who knows, right? I mean, there's lots of questions around the auction that aren't settled yet. So my personal favorite is, should the incumbents even be allowed to bid in the 700 megahertz auction, right? Should they be allowed? Let me give you the nature of why I say that comment. Rogers has more spectrum in Canada than T-Mobile in the US and Sprint combined. Let me say that again. More than T-Mobile and Sprint combined. So let me ask all of you a question. Considering the wealth of spectrum that they have, should they be allowed to bid in the next auction? No. I happen to agree, and I've made the government aware of my position. We'll see what they say. There's another issue on caps. Okay, if you don't bar them from participating in the auction, why don't we put caps on, right? And say you can only own so much spectrum. There's another issue around participation in under the 1,000 megahertz bands. So if you've got 850 spectrum, should you be allowed to bid on 700, right? There's lots of questions around the auction that aren't answered. In an unfettered auction, if the government says that it's an open auction and that there's no set-aside and there's no rules and there's nothing preventing the incumbents from doing what they like, we might participate in the auction, but we wouldn't buy anything. We wouldn't get anything, right? Because it's actually worth more for the incumbents to buy the spectrum for whatever price it takes and not use it than it is to have a new entrant in the space. So trust me, everybody at the incumbents wishes that ourselves and Wind would just die, right? They all wish we were dead, right? So, make no mistake, if they can get it, if they can lobby and make it so the auction is unfettered, that's what they'll do, right? In fact, you remember that the day the auction comments closed, do you remember TELUS issued that press release that said it was, they needed the spectrum to build rural, and remember that press release? Remember that? Okay, true story. Our chief operating officer is a guy named Stuart Lyons, and Cheryl looks after all of our PR. Stuart took the TELUS press release, and everywhere it said TELUS, he wrote Mobilicity, And everywhere it said Darren Entwistle, he scratched out and said Dave Dobbin. And he said, let's issue this. Right? And we almost did, right? We almost did until the voice of reason, being Cheryl, said, no, that's too cute, right? You can't do that, right? Wouldn't that have been great, though? Right? Wouldn't that have been awesome? Right? Wouldn't that have been awesome?
So have you considered offering tabs?
You mean like the Kudo tab or the Win tab? Is that what you're talking about?
The Virgin Super Tab.
The Super Tab. Super Tab. Right. Yeah, it's a Super Tab. No. You want to know why?
Are you going to call it like the Turbo Tab?
Call it the Awesome Tab. Right. No. So our model is a little bit different than the other carriers in that there's no contract, there's no credit check, nor is there an implied contract. And a tab is an implied contract. Right? No, it is. You cancel your service with Kudo, if that's how you say it. You cancel your service, you owe them that money. You've got to pay it. It's an implied contract, right? And we don't do that. So how we do it, you buy your phone, you own your phone. If you don't like us, you can leave. You can take your phone somewhere else. You own your phone. It's your property. So it's a different model. Second problem is because there's no contract, if we were to do a tab and somebody did leave, it makes it exceptionally difficult to recover the money, right? Because there are people in this room, I guarantee you, you're not supposed to do it, but there are people in this room who have Mobilicity service who have given a fake name, right? There are guaranteed people that have done it, right? And so if he comes in, he does a tab, now we're into, can I see your social insurance number? I got to run a credit check. I got to do all that stuff. And for anybody who is a Mobilicity customer, one of the biggest positive comments we get back on customer surveys is how quick and non-intrusive the sign-up process is. So it's sort of a philosophy.
Okay, so some executives were let go. So does that mean some high-level executives were let go? So does this mean you're getting ready to merge with another carrier?
No. No, you know what? It's amazing the speculation that happens when we make moves like that. The changes that we implemented in our company, they were big changes and they were important changes. And really what the changes came down to is a shift from build mode to moving into operations mode. So for the past 3 years, we've been in this frenetic, crazy build mode, put up towers, all that sort of stuff, and just get it built, just get it done. Now we're changing into this mode where we're in our markets, we're optimizing coverage, we're adding towers, but what it's really about, it's about refining the customer experience, refining the dealer experience, adding subscribers. It's a different way to operate. So the changes that we made were all designed to better facilitate that experience for our customers and our end users. So to give you an example, we had a systems department and we had a network department. So the network department was building towers, putting up radios. The systems department was running the billing system and the operational support system, the different components of the network. And what we would get into is we would get into these situations where something would go wrong in the network. Let me give you an example. SMSs, right? You get an issue with, sending SMSs to Croatia, right? And what would happen, the customer would open the ticket, network group would say, well, that's the systems guys, it's the billing guys. And the billing guys would say, no, that's the network guys, right? And you'd get what we fondly call the Mobilicity salute. Everybody want to see the Mobilicity salute? It goes like this. So what we did is we took our network and our systems teams and we combined them into one group. So there's no more separate silos, there's no more things, and it's already paying dividends in responsiveness to customers and customers' issues, right? So, take as an example, outages. Like, you have outages all the time when you're running a mobile network. Sectors go down, trunks go down, whatever. Our response time is already significantly faster. Even 2 weeks after the changes, response times are way, way better because there's no finger pointing, there's no passing the buck, right? So changes like that we make to improve the experience for our customer. Now, people read all sorts of things into everything we do, right? It's interesting that, you would glean out of that kind of a change that we're about to merge with somebody. So for the record, before the next question you ask, is I can tell you we're not having merger discussions with anybody. It's not happening. We just raised $215 million, right? We raised a pile of money. If we were going to merge with somebody, would we have gone out and raised a pile of money? No, probably the wrong time, right? When you raise money, you pay bankers' fees, you pay interest, you pay all. It'd be stupid to raise a pile of money if we were planning to merge right away. By the way, can I point out to you, if you're a Mobilicity subscriber, you should feel good about that because we are the only new entrant in this country to have raised new capital. We're the only ones. Every new entrant has been out shopping their business plan to the investment community, everybody, and the investment community chose to invest in us. They saw everyone's plan, they picked ours. So we feel pretty good about that.
Okay, so at the last meet, you said you would love to have an AWS femtocell. Now, apparently T-Mobile is getting an AWS femtocell, ...
Yeah. That'd be awesome. You know what? So we're looking at a number of things we can do in to enhance coverage in difficult to serve areas, because that's what a femtocell really does. The problem with femtocells today is they're too expensive. They cost too much money. So, I mean, I can bring a femtocell in tomorrow. They're great. They work great. You plug them into broadband. They're fantastic. They're $1,000, right? So how many of you are going to buy a $1,000 femtocell for your house? No hands go up. Okay. Of course. Right. How many of you are going to get given a femtocell by some carrier who wants you to trial it? So you know, they're very, very expensive. When T-Mobile actually starts to buy femtocells and the quantities start to go up, as with anything, when quantity goes up, price goes down. Now, we do have some solutions that we're deploying already. So we have a device called an Nextivity device that we use, and it's a great device. It's a signal booster, works very, very well. We're also looking at other ways to beef up coverage, being picocells and microcells, but they're different because they're IP based. So they run actually on an IP backhaul rather than a TDM backhaul. So we're looking at all sorts of different things.
What about UMA?
We're actually looking at it. We're investigating it. Well, now hang on. Our friends at Ericsson, who supply T-Mobile's network and supply ours, they have the UMA solution. Their UMA solution is called Mobile at Home. And their solution is a 2G solution, right? It's not a 3G solution. We run a 3G network. So the problem with implementing UMA at this point is the software and the system that's available is available in 2G, not 3, right? That's a kind of an issue. Now, we are working with Ericsson on implementing that functionality, but it's big code changes, right? It's got to go to Sweden. They got to work on the code. They got to change all sorts of stuff to make it happen. If I could put UMA in tomorrow, would I? Absolutely. But the software just isn't there yet, right? This stuff, you know, it's interesting. You get people saying, you know, on the forum, hey, you should put UMA in. Damn, I agree.
Okay, so I have a few members who are complaining about indoor coverage.
Yes.
So what do you have to say to them?
So that's a long topic, right? Let's all accept something. Do you want to have a moment of truth, everybody? Would you like to have a moment of truth? If anybody in the room thinks that our 6-month-old Vancouver network is going to have the same in-building penetration as the 25-year-old TELUS network, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen, right? They've been building their networks for a long, long, long time, right? Every day, our network gets better. Every week, we add towers, right? We have staff here that are dedicated to doing nothing but adding towers. In fact, the network today in Vancouver is a very different network than it was in November when we launched. Tower density in Vancouver is up almost 30%, Pete. It's 30% since November.
Yeah, because you are the one that PM'd me that.
Yeah, up 30%. We added 2 new towers on Tuesday. We're adding more towers next week. Between now and the end of July, density is going to go up another 25% in the Vancouver market. So we're always adding. The thing about indoor coverage is it gets better over time, right? You get better as you add.
EJW918 wonders when you're going to announce your unlock policy for your devices that are locked.
Soon. No. You know what? It's actually interesting. Some of our devices are locked. Some of our devices are unlocked. And we never get compliments on selling the unlocked devices. All we get is people giving us grief on the locked devices. The locked devices, we lock them for a very specific reason. In that when we sell you this phone, we actually sell you this phone with a slight subsidy on it. Right? There's money in it. So we actually subsidize the price of that phone down so it's more affordable for you. What we don't want to do is we don't want to have masses of these phones go out, get unlocked right away, and force us to lose money. And we haven't figured a way out around that. So the choice we get faced with is do we mark down the price of the phone to make it more affordable and keep it locked, or do we mark the phone up to where we're not losing money on it and unlock it? So that's the big question. And I think it's fair that we would not lose money on it. We are contemplating other policies. We just haven't figured out what we're going to do yet.
Okay, so that user and Blue Note 73 are wondering about the return policy. Specifically, they find having more than 1 meg of data, you can't return it. They find that unreasonable.
Well, and again, this is a big discussion we have with people. The problem with a more liberal policy is when you have a more liberal policy, you get abusers, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say we lifted the 30-minute limit on returning phones. Let's just play with that one, for example. What would happen, I guarantee you, as sure as God made little green apples, is you'd get people flying into Canada from country X, buying a Mobilicity phone for their 4-day stay, using 4,000 minutes, and then returning the phone and saying, I want all my money back, right? Now, is that fair to us? Because now we have a phone that's not lightly loved, right? We have a phone that's been loved hard, right? Loved hard, and it's now worthless, right? Because we can't sell that phone again. We can't repackage it. We can't do it. Pardon?
1 megabyte.
Yeah, 1 meg. Because what the point of our return policy really is we want you to be able to go home, go to work, try the phone, make sure it works, right? That's what the return policy is about. Our return policy allows you to do that.
Do you have any phones that realistically you could use less than 1 megabyte of data on and say that you've tried the data network realistically?
BlackBerry.
Blackberry. And by the way, I know BlackBerry's having a bit of a hard time lately, but I got to tell you, of all the phones that we sell, right, of all the phones that we sell, if you want a phone with absolutely 100% the best reception going, like 100%, it is the BlackBerry, hands down. Nothing touches it. They are amazing, amazing devices. They really are.
Okay, user Momaru is asking, are you going to support SMS in languages other than English or French?
We're working on it. We're working on specifically Chinese. The problem with that is when we go, so we use, we don't interconnect every carrier in the world for SMS. Again, excuse me, there's aggregators out there. So what we do is we connect into one aggregator. That aggregator then has deals around the planet and they send the SMS through. Our aggregator happens to be the largest aggregator in North America, doesn't support Chinese text. So we're working on how we actually figure that out.
Okay, user Jonathan is asking about the prepay for a year and get everything for $30 a month. Actually, you announced that at the Toronto meet.
Yeah.
So are you going to do it again?
It's still on. It never went away. Who does anybody in the room have the multi-month option? How awesome is that multi-month option? It's awesome. It's absolutely fantastic. So what we did is you can buy any of our rate plans up to 12 months in advance, and you get a discount on buying that service up front. So, for example, you could buy our $45 a month plan. You buy it for 12 months, you get a 33% discount on that plan, which actually takes it sub $30. It's a great deal. It's actually the best deal in the Canadian telecom industry. Now, everybody likes it when I give away secrets at these things. If you're contemplating buying a multi-month plan, first thing I'll tell you is all of our rate plans are grandfathered. Anybody know that? So if you buy a rate plan X today, you're going to get that rate plan forever. right? Until you either stop paying or something happens. So to you, not us. So if you're on our $40 plan, you get that plan forever. So if you're at all interested in the multi-month option, buy it now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, this is a Toronto question, but how far east and west do you think the Toronto coverage area will go?
Where it is now.
And okay, I'm just going to skip some of these questions.
There will be slight additions to Vancouver very soon. Very, very soon.
What about the island?
Vancouver Island? Not next year. When's White Rock? Pete? Yeah, the phone's already working White Rock, but we haven't officially announced it yet. But it's coming. A couple more sites.
Okay, Keys Inc. is wondering whether you're going to carry some Windows phones in the future.
We throw that around a lot at the shop, and we actually had a Dell Windows phone that we were looking at buying, and you really come down to a question of placing your bet where the technology is going to go. The problem with bringing in a Windows phone is then you got to support a Windows phone. You got to invest in training, all that sort of stuff. We think that Android is the operating system that's going to win, right? We think that long-term Android is going to be the dominant operating system in the world. We can all argue about that, but Android has something that none of the other operating systems have. Do you know what that is? It's a 4-letter F word that everybody loves. Free, right? It's free, right? So the manufacturers get it for free. Because the manufacturers get it for free, that allows them to radically drop the cost of devices. As the price of devices goes down, the operating system is going to get out more and more and more. The thing with the Windows operating system is Windows is still going to charge for it. So who knows what's going to happen, but we've firmly placed our bets with Android.
Your team killed me.
I'm sorry about that. Is this on? Anyways, so I'm going to kind of squeeze in two questions. One's really simple. Today is World IPv6 Day. So where is Mobilicity with IPv6 preparation? As you are an internet service provider as well as a phone company.
We run V4 on the back end now. And most of our stuff on the back end is actually NATed, right? It's heavily NATed within the network. So when it changes to V6, we'll do the same sort of thing, but right now we've got our V4 space and we're happy with it. There's no pressing need for us. Oh yeah, we've got enough allocations. We're actually we're in the process right now of changing the way our internet works. It's actually a project in the shop right now. You'll notice when you do a speed test today, it actually says MTS Allstream. It's because our primary internet provider is MTS Allstream. We're building out, as we speak, our own AS, all of that sort of the redundant connectivity and all the sort of stuff that goes around in being an ISP. At that point, when that happens, we will probably implement V6 on the back end internally, but externally you still have to do V4 out in the world. Right? That's an exceptionally geeky question. How was my answer? Was it geeky enough? Did I geek up there? That was pretty good? It was pretty good? It's good. Oh, there you go.
The other question I was very happy to hear you say that you see yourself as a type, because that's exactly what Mobile Government should be, and that's great.
I agree.
Mobilicity is definitely the closest to that, but I would like to see you go even further. Like Howard's thing about voice and data are the same thing, that's good. But also stuff like, you shouldn't be giving out SIM cards like candy. You should want people on the network using data. I think it would be better to charge metered data at a decent price than stuff like it's unlimited, but you can't use people.
And you know what? We actually, going forward in the future, as we look at our pricing and our rate plans, we're absolutely looking at doing that 100%. Actually, I was in a meeting last week talking about when we launch tablets, how do we actually change the service so that we can actually tailor that tablet experience. And metering is something that was put on the table. I'm a fan personally. I'm a fan of unmetered and unmeasured. Right, I like that. It's because it's easy, and but you do get problems like the P2P, so you have to work through that. But absolutely, we're looking at all different ways of charging for the service.
You guys plan on adding multi-month options for the data plans?
Very, very soon. Very The question was about multi-month data plan options. 100%, there will be multi-month data within the next 60 days. I actually saw the new grid for multi-month earlier this week. So the multi-month rate plans and the way they're structured will be changing within the next 60 days, right?
Hi, I'm tweeting, and sorry, I have a user who's wondering if the $40 friends and family works with a multi-month.
No.
No, okay.
No.
So the answer is no. So we do have a policy inside the shop of we don't generally allow stacking of promotions, right? So, from our standpoint, take a $40 friends and family rate plan and then discount it 33% for somebody buying on 12 months. You're into the realm where it's not a lot of value for us. So no. That being said, the new multi-month options will be interesting on the high end, is not as interesting on the low end, right?
Hey, I notice you guys are getting your message out pretty well, like on mass transit and stuff. I'm seeing it in different periodicals. But the one thing that seems to be the direction of the incumbents, the duopolies, it seems to be bundling. And have you guys ever toyed with or discussed, working with one of the independent ISPs here in Canada, being that, Bell, they've got their own ISP, they've got their own television stations, TELUS, all the big guys. You guys, you're out there on your own. Have you thought about Primus? Have you thought about Tech Savvy? The independent guys who've really been getting their message out because of the whole usage-based billing situation.
That's awesome, right? So it's a great point. We've actually had discussions like that in the past. The issue you get into is generally when you're dealing with a Tech Savvy or a Primus or something like that, they're providing service across the country. And, we provide service in the major cities in the country. So that tends to be a point where we really stick on those discussions. That being said, I think our service stands on its own. Right? I think our service is a great value, and so we think we can sell on our own. But we have had those discussions. Who knows what will happen in the future?
Two quick questions. When are you going to get missed call alerts? So when my phone is out of, not in the service area, it texts me when I get a call. And why do I have to pay 10 cents to get a text when I'm when I'm in an away zone? When I'm not in a yeah. When I'm not no. When I'm not in a
So very slick way of getting two questions in there. So the first question was why do you not get a text when you miss a call? You actually do. Yeah, if you buy our $35 plan that has voicemail in it, what happens when you get left a voicemail, it'll actually send you a text message with the number of who called you and when they called.
I don't mean that. I meant when I'm in an area that doesn't have mobility.
Yes. Yes.
With the other name that's provided.
Yes.
I get a text that said, "Hey, this person tried to call you."
Yes.
But with Mobilicity, I don't. And I'm just wondering when they're going to implement that. Or is it
Well, if you had voicemail, you'd get that.
No, what it means is when the phone is shut off outside the coverage area.
yeah. Yeah, like
Oh. That's a great suggestion. Okay, you know what? I'll take that suggestion back to the team. I'll take that. How much would you pay for that?
nothing.
Then why would I do it? Right? Thanks. I appreciate that. That's great. No, I hear you. I hear you. But again, we get asked for a lot of features that there's lots and lots of features out there. We have to select which features that we can actually offer customers and don't. I mean, even that voicemail notification we have, you would not believe the controversy that we have over that voicemail. Some people love that voicemail message with the number. Like some people just love that thing, and other people are just vehemently opposed to it, right? It's, we get people saying, don't send me the text message when I get a voicemail. We get people asking for it to be it's amazing the different emotions on services. Okay.
I have two very quick questions. Very quick ones. I personally hate voicemail. There's no way to get rid of it on your network. Are you planning on figuring some way out so we don't have voicemail? I personally hate voicemail on my line. There's no way to get rid of it.
Yes, there is.
I haven't figured out a way. I can call.
Buy services a la carte. So if you don't want voicemail, you can buy $25.
Yeah, I can buy it individually, but I'm talking about.
Individual services, and then you don't get
But there should be a way to disable voicemail. It's just a simple thing. Some people hate it. I personally hate it. A lot of people hate voicemail. There's no way. Every other provider has a way you can disable voicemail.
We probably won't do that.
Okay. Second question. Have you ever done a conference call on a Mobi?
Yes.
Do you know what happens? Each person, that's true. Each person hears a beep every few seconds. Every 15, 20 seconds, it goes beep, beep, beep.
Yes.
Why is that? It's what?
It's just so you know
No, it's not. It's something really annoying. You should look into it.
Again, this is just like the text. This is just like the voicemail text. Yeah, I have. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Right? Yeah. Right. No, you know what? It's an option in the system. You can turn that on so people know that the calls are running. So we turn it on. Right? So I think it's probably less frequent than that, but I'll look into if we can disable that. Voicemail and beeps on conference calls. I gotcha. All right, here. This gentleman's been patiently putting up his hand. He's going to ask me a handset question.
Not necessarily. Okay. What is the most appalling experience you've ever had with a wireless carrier in Canada or in the world? Both.
Me, personally?
Yeah.
I have a daughter named Kimberly. I love my daughter with all my heart. But my daughter, today she's 16, but now she's 16. But before we launched Mobilicity, she had a phone with another provider. Now, like many teenagers, she's into text messaging. So May 2009, my lovely daughter Kimberly, she's beautiful, sent 8,400 text messages at 10 cents a message. Right? So I got the bill delivered in a cardboard box. You think I'm kidding? I'm really not. The bill came delivered in a cardboard box, and I could only negotiate my way out of so much of the bill, and I ended up paying a massive, massive bill for a service that's essentially free. Why do we include text messaging for free on all of our plans? Because it's free, right? It literally costs nothing on the network, right? It's done on the signaling channel, right? It's nothing. So that's why we don't care if you send 4,000 text messages. But at 10 cents a message, it's bad. That number one. That's my most appalling Canadian experience. My most appalling U.S. experience during when we were forming Mobilicity and we were starting it up. We have one of our shareholders is in New York City, and I was in New York and I downloaded a PowerPoint presentation on my phone. And I didn't look at how big it was before I downloaded it. It was a $2,000 PowerPoint presentation, right, which was really expensive. So that was really appalling. One that shall be unnamed, but that was really, really, really appalling. And then probably the most offensive experience I've had, if you'd like offensive, we bought my wife a cell phone when we first moved to Toronto. In 1998, we bought her a cell phone, just a basic Nokia phone. And my wife used that phone for years. On a trip to New York City, I bought her a little pink Nokia at the Nokia store on 57th. I brought that back for her, et cetera, et cetera. So years and years and years go by. Years. And so we launched Mobilicity, and I'm going to cancel her service. right? Because, clearly I don't need the competitor's service anymore. We have our own network now. So I phoned to cancel, and they tried to charge me a contract termination fee because by the act of having their service year after year, somebody said that was me renewing a contract, right? Somehow I renewed contracts and didn't know it, right? So they tried to charge me a contract termination fee. That was just plain offensive, right? That was just plain offensive. I can keep going, right? I can keep going, right? Those experiences for me, actually, when I talk to our customers, those are actually the best experience. Like the best conversations I have with customers are those conversations. We met a lady when we launched Edmonton, who she had her cell phone bill for her son delivered in cardboard boxes, and paying the bill actually put her into credit trouble, right? Paying the bill. We met a guy when we launched Calgary who bought our Mobilicity phones, and the savings, he had actually gone so far as to mathematically calculate the savings that he would get going with Mobilicity, and he had done the savings over the time between when his son, between launching Calgary and when his son was going to university. It was 5 years, I think, Cheryl. He was going to save enough money on Mobilicity to put his son through university. Like the savings were going to pay for a university education. Like we had one actually. The last story I'll tell you at the last. It's great. No hybrid RESP. My favorite story of all of customers with us as opposed to our competitors actually happened at the last HowardForums meet. I don't know if you remember this. There was a fellow who had recently immigrated from China, and his wife was still in China. And he bought our service with the unlimited China plan, and he stood up just like this when we were asking questions, and he said, "Thank you. I call my wife every day because you brought this service to the market." Right? That's a great story.
Would you consider working with businesses such as maybe a school board if they're looking to have 3G into their school? Would you look, or into the schools, would you look into or communicating with school boards, getting 3G into the schools, giving employees, maybe I don't want to say contracts, but deals, and also getting schools wired up with the 3G wireless, and that could expand your user base as well as kids using it for education.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So we're actually looking at some alternate coverage solutions, these IP-based picos and femtocells, for environments very specifically like that. Once we tackle the technological challenge of those coverage solutions, we would absolutely look at doing that kind of deal. I have a long history of dealing with school boards in past lives, so school boards are actually, helping the school boards out is something I believe strongly in, but we have to get the technology in place to allow us to do that first. Does that answer your question? I'm not trying to dodge, it's a technology issue. Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, we would absolutely consider it. Last question, sir, in the back, the gentleman in the gray in the back.
Handset question. Just wondering, when you guys are deciding whether, what new handsets to get, what's the process like? And let's say for the Panache, an exclusive to Mobilicity, do you guys reach out to the manufacturers, or do the manufacturers kind of present you guys with a phone and say, would you guys like to carry it? Or what's it kind of like? Would you be able to talk about that?
That's great. That's my vote for best question. Just remember that. It was a question about the handset buying process. Every manufacturer is different how they do it. So usually what happens is the handset manufacturer will come in and they'll show us a roadmap. And the roadmap will take their handsets out 2 years, usually, and they'll show us, what the form factors look like, conceptual drawings, conceptual specifications, and a conceptual price on the handset. At that point, we either pass or we go into deeper discussions. When you go into deeper discussions, you start talking about quantities, you start min-maxes, all that sort of stuff. And at that point, the conversation turns to, if you buy so many, you can get exclusive. If you don't, you can't have exclusive. So then we do our internal calculations on how many can we sell, how many can we move, should we commit to that kind of quantity. We do a business case on it, and we move it forward like that. So it depends on the manufacturer. Some manufacturers won't give exclusives. Some manufacturers give exclusives to the big three, but not to us, right? Some manufacturers want to deal only in exclusives, so it's very different depending upon the manufacturer. So generally, it's driven by that specific manufacturer and not by us. If we can get an exclusive on a device, yeah, we're going to get it, right? But usually when we've been presented with an exclusive opportunity, the quantities have been very, very large, and that doesn't allow us to go into that. So we try to keep our buys relatively small on a buying scale, and the reason we do that is because we like refreshing the lineup, right? So we think that showing new phones and having new phones in the stores adds excitement to the stores, adds excitement to the lineup. So if you actually do the calculation, and I know you have, we've refreshed our handset lineup since we launched in Toronto 2.5 times, right? If you go to some of our competitors, Justin, they're still selling phones that they sold when they launched a year and a half ago, right? They're still selling the same phones. So we believe refreshing is a better strategy, keep the buys small, whereas others have different strategies. So there's very different strategic imperatives at play depending on the operator. Does that answer your question? Probably too much. Okay, do you want to take one more, Howard?
This is a question from me. I would like to know what the official stance is on forwarding calls to U.S. numbers.
Go ahead.
Okay, is it going to change or is it going to stay? Okay, all right.
Call forwarding to U.S. numbers, you can do that today. And you know what? Our cost to terminate a call in Regina, Saskatchewan, as opposed to the cost to terminate in New York City, it's exactly the same. So I mean, we really doesn't matter to us if you forward U.S. or Canada. There you go. Now, last thing I'll do. So this is an HTC Panache. It's the phone I use. You'll love it. It's fantastic. There you go. Thank you. No problem. Picture. Hang on.
Better not be on Craigslist.
You can't unlock it anyways. It doesn't matter.